Everything you have been taught on the Emerald Tablet is biased, corrupted, or intentionally falsified. What is passed down through history books, official religions, or academic science is only a domesticated version of the truth, a facade that hides an ancient and immense power, a spiritual science capable of rewriting your relationship with the universe, with the mind, with energy, with reality itself. The Emerald Tablet is not a simple relic of a mystical past. There are no ancient fables written in it to decorate temples or fascinate initiates. They are functional codes, operational formulas, alchemical keys, precise protocols for the intentional creation of reality, for the transmutation of internal energies, and for the conscious mastery of the cosmic laws that govern all that exists. For centuries, this tablet has been confined to the recesses of esoteric schools and initiatory societies. Dismissed as myth, reinterpreted as poetic symbolism, weakened with sugar-coated versions, it has been made inaccessible to the common human being. Why? Because the power it contains, if truly understood and applied, makes every individual autonomous, sovereign, incorruptible, and this is precisely what those who govern the world cannot afford. Imagine discovering that your consciousness can influence matter, that your thoughts, focused and refined, can alter your external reality. That time is not a rigid line but an oscillating frequency, manipulable like a sound wave. That death is not an end but a change of state, a vibrational passage, and that the entire universe obeys laws that were never taught to you, but that act on you every moment. This is the real content of the Emerald Tablet, and this is why its true meaning has been hidden. The message contained in this tablet is not for everyone. It never was. It was written for those who are ready to break the spell, to undo the veil, to step out of the matrix. Because understanding the tablet means abandoning forever the idea that reality is fixed and beginning to experience it as a dynamic mental construct, as a plasmatic manifestation of will, intention, frequency. If what you just heard made your mind light up like me right now, it's not an automatic gesture, it's a signal. It will tell me that you are not one of those who sleep, that you are ready to see beyond the lies, and that this truth deserves to reach as many people as possible. Every like is a wave that breaks the silence. Let me know you are there. And now, listen carefully, because what follows is not a lesson, it is an initiation. The Emerald Tablet does not originate in Egypt, as conventional narrative would have it. Its roots lie in an even more remote pre-Diluvian era, in a lost civilization known by many names, but which Plato, in one of his most controversial dialogues, called Atlantis. This was not a legend, but a historical reality deliberately erased from collective memory. Atlantis was a high civilization, highly advanced both technologically and spiritually. It was a humanity that knew the laws of the cosmos, the power of intention, the vibratory structures that regulate the visible and invisible universe. The Emerald Tablet is one of the few surviving testimonies. According to what is written in the tablet itself, Thoth was not a god, but an incarnate being from that lost world, a master of time, of sacred geometry, of subtle energies, who fled the collapse of his land to preserve its knowledge. He came to Egypt at a time when humanity was still in chaos and laid the foundations of what later became the pharaonic civilization. His mission was simple: to sow knowledge, to prepare the ground for a future rebirth of man. The Greeks, impressed by his knowledge, identified him with Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great because he dominated the three planes of existence: physical, mental, and spiritual. From him came not only alchemy and Hermetic philosophy, but the entire corpus of Western occult sciences. But its knowledge was too vast, too dangerous, because those who possess it can no longer be manipulated. That is why the occultation was born. The tablet, originally clear and operational, was encrypted in symbolic languages. It was hidden within esoteric rituals incorporated into alchemical texts, distorted by religion and dismissed by science as pure fantasy. Yet its core remains intact, because those who have guarded it, even in the shadows, have never forgotten its power. Think about it. The Library of Alexandria, where the Hermetic and Gnostic texts converged, was burned not by accident but by strategic necessity. The apocryphal Gospels, which reported similar teachings about the inner power and intrinsic divinity of the human being, were banned. Mystery schools were closed, persecuted, infiltrated. This is not an accident, it is a plan. Because admitting the authenticity of the tablet is opening a door that no authority wants you to pass through. It is admitting that reality is a malleable construct, that the mind is a creative force, and that your consciousness is older than any religion. And yet, all of this is written in black and green. And the real question is not, is the tablet authentic? But, why is it so scary? Inside the Emerald Tablet is knowledge that belongs not to a culture or an era, but to the entire scheme of the universe. It is not a religious text nor a spiritual narrative, but mystical equations, precise laws that govern reality, identical both in the macrocosm of galaxies and in the microcosm of emotions. The tablet explicitly speaks of 7 principles, also known through the work The Kybalion. The first is mentalism. All is mind. The universe is mental. Nothing exists outside of consciousness. Reality is a projection of the universal mind, and the human mind is part of that field. Everything that exists begins as thought. The second is correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. Reality is fractal. Laws that operate on a cosmic scale are reflected in your psyche. What happens in your inner world generates reflections in the outer world. The third is vibration. Nothing is still. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Everything is energy, matter, thoughts, emotions. Everything has a frequency. By changing your vibration, you change what you attract, what you perceive, what you become. The fourth is polarity. Everything has its opposite, which is in truth the same thing with varying degrees. Good and evil, light and shadow, hot and cold are not absolute opposites, but extremes of the same scale. He who masters the poles rules the entire spectrum. Fifth is rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Everything has its tides. Everything follows a cycle. Understanding rhythms allows you to anticipate, intervene, and stay centered in change. Crises are not chaos. They are predictable waves. The sixth is cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Nothing happens by chance. He who creates the causes determines the future. He who reacts lives inside the cage. He who acts becomes sovereign. The seventh is gender. Gender manifests itself on every plane. Everything has an active and receptive principle. The male and female are not just bodies, but cosmic forces present in every creative act. These are not poetic concepts. They are operational gears. Whoever understands them stops being a victim of reality and begins to design it. Now, do you understand why the table is feared? Because those who teach that you are only a product of genetics, that your mind is a secretion of the brain, that reality is objective and immutable, are lying, and not out of ignorance, but to maintain power. Here is the truth. You have always been a creator. Only they have convinced you that you are a cog. They have taught you to suffer, to believe, to obey. But consciousness, the true one, does not obey. It shapes. The same laws that could free you have been used to bind you. The tablet has not only been censored, but systematically employed by the elites to construct a collective reality that serves their control. Every hermetic principle has been transformed into a mechanism of manipulation. Mentalism. They made you believe that the mind is secondary, a chemical product of the brain, and so they hijacked your ability to create, making you a slave to matter. Polarity. Every social division is engineered. Right and left, science and spirituality, men and women, peoples and cultures are artificial polarizations used to prevent you from finding balance. He who dominates opposites controls the entire field. Rhythm. Economic crises, wars, booms and busts are all manipulated cycles. Elites don't suffer time, they orchestrate it. You react to it, they anticipate it, cause and effect. They control the causes, media, education, culture, to control the effects, fears, beliefs, mass actions. The masses self-regulate, like perfect gears. Physical chains are no longer needed, mental ones will suffice. Vibration, every piece of news you receive, every collective emotion that is generated, every cultural trend, everything is designed to drag down your frequency. The longer you remain in fear, the more manipulable you are. The more guilty you are, the more you obey. The entire system you live in is an artificial vibrational field, a matrix encoded with the principles of the tablet, but used backwards, to destroy instead of building, to confuse instead of enlighten, to dominate instead of liberate. They have convinced you that the universe is a blind mechanism, that the soul is an illusion, that death is an end, that thought is weak, that vibration is New Age, but it was all written there in the Tablet of Thoth. They burned Gnostic texts, demonized alchemical wisdom, ridiculed Hermeticism, because they knew that a free mind is a threat to the entire edifice of global control. And so they created a perfect system, a prison in which the inmates collaborate in their own detention. Happy, distracted, divided, tired, scared, disconnected. This matrix is not made of circuits, it is made of beliefs, of ignorance, of lowered frequencies, and above all, it is made of your own energy. You feed it, but you can stop, you can get out, and you can rewrite. True power does not reside in palaces, thrones, or bank accounts. True power is within and has always been there, silent, waiting for you to recognize it. The tablet does not simply want to teach you, it wants to activate you. Every word engraved on it is a command, an instruction, a key, not to contemplate reality but to engineer it, and it all starts with you. Do you want to free yourself? Here are the 3 fundamental steps that emerge directly from the wisdom of the tablet. 1. Active mentalism. Everything is mind. Reality responds to the observer. What you pay attention to expands. Where thought goes, their energy flows. This principle is as ancient as it is ignored. It is the basis of manifestation, but you have been taught the opposite, that you are an effect and not a cause, that you react rather than create. Every limit you accept becomes your cage. Every thought you nourish generates a field. Every belief is a seed in the fabric of reality. Start thinking in a ritual, sacred way. Every thought is a prayer, a direction, a vibration. 2. Energetic transmutation, converting shadow into power. Negative emotions are not to be suppressed. They are raw material for inner alchemy. Anger, fear, pain, they are fuel. The elites have been doing it for centuries. They take social chaos and transform it into control. Now do it. Take your shadow and make it creative fire. Every emotion is a vibrational field. If you learn to transmute it through breathing, meditation, sound, movement, presence, then you become indestructible. Nothing can touch you because every impact becomes strength. 3. Reality engineering. Everything is vibration. You are a transmitter. You are a station. You radiate signals. Every day, every thought, every emotion, every word creates frequencies. The world responds to what you transmit. You will not change your reality by fighting it. You change it by vibrating beyond it. You want freedom? Vibrate in freedom. You want abundance? Vibrate in abundance. You want love? Radiate it first. This is not magic. It is subtle physics. It is the law. It is what the tablet states unambiguously. You don't need to fight the system. You need to stop feeding it. Don't feed it with fear. Don't feed it with division. Don't feed it with passive attention. Don't feed it with your energy. Start remembering who you are. Start living as a conscious vibrational field. Start connecting directly to the source without intermediaries. And watch as the old world slowly collapses under the weight of your awakened presence. Here we are at the conclusion of this initiatory journey, the seal. Now it is no longer a matter of knowing, but of being, of embodying what you have understood and letting reality bend to your awakened consciousness. The truth of the tablet can no longer be ignored. nor reduced to an alternative philosophy. Once you see it, you can no longer close your eyes. Once you hear it, you can no longer pretend not to know. Once you feel it vibrate inside you, it changes you forever. You are no longer just a person looking for answers. If you have come this far, you are an initiate, and every initiate is called to choose, because from this moment on, there are only two ways. One, go back, pretend it was just an interesting video, fall back asleep in the routine, in the news, in the learned patterns, in the thoughts of others. Let the world carry you instead of you creating a new one. Two, move forward. Accept that your awakening has a price, but also a power. That the table is not to be studied, but to be lived. That you are ready to apply what you have rediscovered, to become a point of light in the field, to generate a reality consistent with your highest frequency. This is the real secret. Awakening is contagious. Every free mind alters the collective field. Every person who vibrates consciously modifies the reality of all others, not with activism, not with anger, but with presence, with energy, with consciousness. The system does not fear revolutions. It has foreseen them. It knows how to manage them. The system fears you when you stop seeking permission, when you ignore external validation, when you become an autonomous source of meaning, because at that point you are no longer manipulable. The table has brought you this far. Now the next step is not theoretical, it is action. Because every conscious gesture feeds the field, it is your way of saying, I am awake, I am present, and I choose the truth. Write Lux Aeterna in the comments. It is our password. A signal that you are ready to walk beyond the veil of illusion towards eternal knowledge. Subscribe to the channel. The next revelation awaits you, and only those inside will see it. Whether you choose to continue or stop here, remember, the world changes the moment you stop believing in fairy tales. See you soon, where reality reunites.